Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Hassan, Dean, and Willem. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on our pre-game stream. Just a small bit of housekeeping before we get into everything. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and will help us hit that 10k mark. We're nearly there, hoping to get there before the opening of the January transfer window. It's always appreciated. Any likes or any subscriptions, it always helps the channel and boosts the channel, and it all goes back to helping make more content for you guys. And make sure that you have your bell notification on for all future videos and live streams. We just released, before this came out at about 6:45, our predicted 11 for the game against Crystal Palace tomorrow. Lou was looking after that one, so make sure you check that one out. We'll have a post-game stream tomorrow hosted by myself, and the 7:30 stream will be hosted by myself as well tomorrow. So make sure you're around for both of them too, and you have your notifications on for all of the streams too. But without further ado, let us get into this pre-match preview. More so because there's some bits of news. As we had Ivan, what was it that you called him, Willem? Twatoff? Is
that Ivan Twatoff, indeed.
Yeah. We had confirmed. There's rumors and a little bit of smoke around the fact that Alisson may be back starting tomorrow. Now, Willem thinks that that's a big load of bollocks, and I agree with him.
I think if Ivan says it's a big load of bollocks, that's more it. Like I don't trust whatever that guy says.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him myself. However, it is properly news. No J-Muse. This is actually the Japanese jersey. It's very nice. I was quite proud of it myself. I know it's not a vintage Yugoslavian basketball jersey. However, that sounds unbelievable. But Alisson is confirmed to be back in first team training today. It is rumours that he may be starting tomorrow. I don't think he should start tomorrow myself. But Dean, I'll throw it over to yourself first. If Alisson is available, would you start him tomorrow, knowing that he's just come back from a little bit of a hamstring twinge, shall we call it? It clearly wasn't as serious as we thought it was. Or would you rather have him rest until Manchester United next weekend?
I'd start him providing he is 100% clear, just because it's another vital game where we can't afford any mistakes. I know Kelleher did a decent job against Sheffield United, but he wasn't really tested bar maybe one Archer chance earlier on. You might get a bit more of a test against Palace, but if your number one's fit and ready to go, you've got to start him. Especially the fact that Kelleher's going to play midweek, virtually guaranteed. So I would stick with Alisson personally. I understand why you'd rather not risk him because of that injury. But if the medical staff say, go ahead, he's 100%, you'd start him.
With him only being back in training as of today, though, Hassan, like, is it? I don't know if it was today or yesterday. He was 100% back in training. It's very close to the kickoff time. Like, if you're only back into 100% training following sitting out due to a muscle injury, especially on his more dominant leg too, would this worry you if he started and possible re-aggravation and being out for a longer period of time?
Yeah, I would worry, and I won't start him. We should give him a rest for this week because Europa is already. We know we don't need to worry about it. So Crystal Palace, we can sit him out, and in defense, we should bring back Simikas. So the defense should be strong for this match, and we go from here because games will be coming thick and fast after that. United, Arsenal, these are the matches which we need to look at more.
Yeah, I'm more of that mind as well, purely because his with it being his right leg that took the issue, it's his more dominant leg, and I'd nearly rather just. I know, Dean, where you're saying if the medical staff say 100% he's good to go, but Alisson being Alisson and who he is and how good of a player he is, you'd nearly want to just wrap him in bubble wrap and then pull him out for the United game and give him the rest, in my own opinion. I don't even think Kelleher is going to start for us against USG next week. I think it might be the likes of Pitaluga or somebody along those lines, purely because it's a non-factor game. We're through. We're into the round of 16 regardless. That's just the way I look at it. Willem, you kind of were shaking your head a little bit there. Would you be starting Alisson tomorrow, even at 75%?
Yeah, I would be starting Alisson tomorrow because for me, it's more due to as well how detrimental Alisson is in our way of playing from the back. I would rather we get him, if the medical team declare him as fit enough to start, I would rather get him in tomorrow already. Because like Dean said, we know he's not going to play midweek. I think it would be, in that sense, a good warm-up game for him as well to get that hamstring really like back to a bit of fitness and back to some playing time. And I think he's going to be a lot sharper for the United game next week if he plays tomorrow than, throwing him in just straight on the Sunday again, where he might just be a bit stiff.
Yeah. No, I see. There's an argument to be made for both sides, and it's: do you be cautious, or do you? I suppose you need to trust the medical staff at that standpoint, but we don't necessarily have a great run and track record with them. Naby Keita, Thiago, Stefan Bajcetic, for example, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now, then again, those are the last men, we'll call them. I'd take Bajcetic out of that classification purely because it's growing pains for him. Jamie has mentioned it here. We have to keep pace with Arsenal. In saying that, Arsenal have an awful lot of problems going to Villa. They don't really play well going to play Aston Villa. And the last time that they played, they lost when they went to Villa, as far as I'm aware.
They won, didn't they?
Yeah, they beat them, yeah.
Yeah, they beat them 4-2.
Did they?
Yeah, last season.
I'm mistaken, so. I know that, but the way Villa are playing lately, I can see them very easily giving a game to Arsenal, and I don't think Arsenal have the squad to prolongedly have battles like that. They're built to sort of have a battle every 4 weeks against a top 6 squad, but if you have mid-table teams taking it to them, they'll crack. I don't think they have the squad depth. I said it in the group chat. I think on paper, at least, and I think on the pitch so far this season, we have probably the best squad out of the whole league. You're not agreeing with me at all, Willem, in this, shaking your head at everything. What have I said wrong this time?
I've seen it before. City have had a slow start. We all think, it could be the year that they're not going to join and it's all going to be fine. And then, boom, Kevin De Bruyne comes back in a month and a 20-game unbeaten run comes in.
Yeah,
so I'm not counting anything out.
Look, the last time we won the league, we were 25 points ahead. And this is a statistic for everybody as well. And this is hilarious.
Right, we're 4 points ahead. Not 25. We're 4 points ahead, not 25.
Yeah. I get that. But we're still ahead, and City don't look like themselves at all. That's just you can only play who's in front of you, and you can only go, and you're only as good as your last game. And City are fucking abysmal at the moment, considering their last game. 2 shots on target against Aston Villa with what could be considered one of the more talented teams in the league. I think that's atrocious. Like, Villa just went and took it to them, but. With the Alisson news, obviously, then we have other news in relation to Joel Matip, who is probably gone for the rest of the season, more than likely. I don't think he'll be back. He's done his MCL or his ACL. I can't remember which one he done. But either way, it's 3 to 4 months worth of a recovery. Klopp was asked about his contract situation, and I think the club will do the classy thing and extend him by a year, allow him to gain his legs back, and then let him go for free the following year. And I think that'll be the right thing to do, in my own opinion. But it's sad because we'll never probably see one of his mad runs from the centre-back position all the way up to a centre-forward position, just running by midfielders.
Meltdowns.
Or hearing his fun facts about coconut trees. That was my favourite one about him, and really, realistically. But with the likes of Joel Matip being injured, Willem, does the depth level at our centre-back position and our defensive back four positions begin to worry you now, considering the only really centre-backs that we have behind Konate, who doesn't have the best health history, would be Joe Gomez, who can run hot and cold, and a 20-year-old Virgil van Dijk regen?
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair with Joe Gomez as well, apart from being hot and cold, he also does not have the best injury history, as we know as well. I think the first few days after the Matip injury, I was still more of the mindset of I would still prioritize the number 6 position. But over the last couple of days, and just looking at what our squad options are, I do think maybe the centre back does have to be prioritised now for for the January window. Even though I do still think the 6 is something that we might need to address. Because at the same time, Endo has been blowing me away these last 3 games. I've not, like, honestly, I've been so impressed by him. He's turned into one of my favorites in the last 3 games. Like, it's been unbelievable. I've really enjoyed watching him. So
yeah, so have I. He's genuinely been fantastic. He's kind of grown into the role an awful lot more than what he is at the moment. Hassan, does the depth on the back four begin to concern you as well, or do you still like? Personally, I don't think we need to sign a 6 in January, unless one presents themselves to us. I don't think we need to go out of our way to do it. If somebody like a Florentino Luis or a Paulinho or something along those lines, somebody that is accessible and is known to be trying to get out of a squad like Paulinho is, like, you could very easily, not that you could lowball Fulham, but they know he's going to go, so you could maybe tinker with the price a little bit. But like, I wouldn't even dare spend anything more than 50 million in relation to a CDM in January. I'd rather put 50 million pounds into a centre back in January. But Hassan, does the depth worry you, and do you feel that we still need to address the 6, or should a centre back be the priority now to focus on, and maybe some extra depth there?
I think, as we all know, that we always have transfers and targets already predetermined and focused on. So I don't think we, as a club and the management, are now really concerned. But it can change with one more injury. So then we will go into the panic by the comment I'm reading Ben Davis, like when we were on our backs, so we went into panic mode. But I don't. We have seen we are always demanding that we need this and that, and a whole window goes by and we don't go, and because we have already transfers which, like, Gapper came, he was available, we went for him and got him. So if target is available, we'll go and buy him. And I think in January, if the squad remains the same, we'll only go for the targets which are available.
Yeah, it's Dean, as David Ornstein has said, Liverpool do an awful lot of their work behind closed doors. We're not really the type of club that reveals an awful lot. And Kelleher mentions here that Klopp has also commented he doesn't think Liverpool will invest in defender in January. He didn't say that specifically. He said that we'll only go for the right player, which some have assumed is an excuse and putting dampeners on the fire that we may sign somebody, or the anger that we may not sign somebody, to put some dampeners on that. Me personally, I think absolutely nobody has a clue who we will be signing. There's so many different options that I can see coming through. We have Lucas Beralda, we have Gonzalo Inacio, we have what's the gentleman's name from? I think one of the comments here mentioned it before. Lecroix or whatever, however you pronounce it. Lecroix. It's like croissant. It's a Lecroix. He's dead. Fucking French language, man. It's so fucking weird. And that's me speaking as an Irishman. Like, Ireland's completely backwards altogether, quite literally.
Get the Gaelic out.
Oh no, God no! I'd start talking, and the furniture in your room would start floating. But so as Kelleher mentions here, with Wolfsburg, he's only 12 matches under his belt, so there's an awful lot to go there. I haven't looked into him myself personally. I know, Willem, you asked about it a little bit earlier in the day, but I was up to my balls in work, so I didn't get an opportunity to look at him before the stream.
I thought he was left-footed, and it turns out someone said he was right-footed.
Yeah, Paul was mentioning that he's right-footed. Paul does love his left-footers. I know he loves the balance in the squad. I personally don't think it's that big of an issue myself, but I understand where Paul is coming from too, where he mentions that it needs to be balanced in the team, and we'd be the only top 6 team with, like, I think 2 left-footers, with Salah and Tsimikas would be the 2, and Andy Robertson, so it'll be 3.
Are we?
But it's a weird one. But Dean, that comment that Klopp has made that we're only going to go for the right player. Are you concerned with how we might address this January, or given the fact that we've practically rebuilt a midfield with us only speaking about one signing that we never even got in Caicedo, and we didn't really, Klopp never spoke about the others, and they all just arrived. Are you worried about how we may address business in January, or are you confident in how the team and the sporting director and the talent scouts will do their job?
I think after the summer we have to have a slight bit of confidence and we actually know what we're doing behind the scenes. I know there was a bit of turmoil in the summer and we come out in a lot better position. This is the problem with Liverpool and transfer windows. We never know what's going on, but it's not necessarily a bad thing at the same time, because you don't want to know everything that's going on, because the one bad thing that happens, and then it's an uproar, it's the end of the world, as we saw in summer with the Caicedo, fiasco. So we'll go into that as fans and just hope that we will actually bring somebody in. And regarding the centre-back situation, I think it'll all hinge to how we view Kwanzaa as a long-term option. Do we see him as ready for the first team properly? And if we do, is he predominantly left-sided or is he right-sided? Because that's going to carry forward as well. We won't just go and buy somebody just because Joel Matip's injured. It will play a factor, but I don't think it'd be like, right, that's it, now scrap all the plans. Someone's injured, we'll have to replace them. I don't think that'll be the case. It just might move things along slightly. If Kwanzaa is viewed as a left-sided centre-back predominantly, we will go buy a right-sided one for the long term to replace Matip, or maybe to challenge Konate. If we review him as a right-sided player at the back, then it'll be a left-sided, which I do prefer. I would like another left-sided centre-back. I know you is it Inácio from Sporting? My gut feeling says it's not going to happen, just for the release clause aspects doubled. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I still think that's a steal for him. I'd pay. I think 120 million is a steal for him. He genuinely could be the next Virgil van Dijk. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, I do like him myself. He's got pace. He's good on the ball. It's just a case of you've got to try sign somebody now. I know City don't have this issue. I know you're going to throw that back straight at me, but you've got to try convince somebody that if you're going to sign somebody of that quality to come in and go, right, you'll play some games, but Virgil's going to be ahead of you for the next 2 seasons till he starts slowing down. And that's not going to sit well with a lot of players. I know City kind of have that upper hand. It's some reason we just don't do that. We won't go and do that. We'll go and get a good prodigy, or at least somebody with a bit of experience under the belt to go, right, in the next few years, you're going to get more and more games and you will become next Van Dijk type of thing. You will be the mainstay. I think that's what they'll be looking at. That 20, 21-year-old. I don't know who, not going to lie. It might take into account the whole homegrown thing. That might come into it. But we'll have to just wait and see. In regards to a stick, I've mentioned this on a couple of streams ago. I don't know if there's going to be a plan to sign a six at all, because Endo's assigned to a 4-year deal, which of course is the James Milner replacement. But they don't want anybody to step into Bajcetic's path. And then straight away you got MacAllister as well. There you've got 3 options. Are you going to go out and spend 40, 50 million on another CDM, potentially not play, or to get into the way of the others? That's also got to take into consideration.
Yeah, it's something of plenty of moving parts, and it's an interesting prospect, because while I trust the recruitment of Liverpool and Klopp and their talent acquisition, it's a very interesting time, because realistically we could sign somebody and we could sign nobody, but I still feel as confident in the team as I am now. My only issue is that it's a little bit thin at the centre back position now. I personally think Kwanzaa is the real deal. You can even see it in how he's playing. He's gaining more confidence every time, and he's actually pulling it off. It'd be a different thing if he had the confidence, but he was a tit and just was messing everything up. But you can even it was the game against Lask, and I understand it's Lask, and it's obviously not peak Premier League performance. But if Klopp trusted him to come in against Newcastle when we're down to 10 men and the game is 1-1, and it's into a very hostile environment in St. James's Park, and Klopp trusts a 20-year-old to come in and play centre back. I think the sky's the limit for this kid, because clearly Klopp knows more than me, knows more than any of us in the channel, obviously, other than a few people, but we won't name names. But realistically, to have the confidence to put a 20-year-old kid in there and then watch him grow, and then in that last game where you seen him, all of a sudden it was like Virgil van Dijk just got a haircut. He put the hands behind his back and started jockeying backwards and waiting for the opposing last player to move and make their cut, and then dove in with a tackle, and Kelleher just cleaned up the rebound. And it was fantastic to watch. It was like watching Virgil van Dijk was there. So I think he is the real deal. And again, I agree with you that City are actually able to do that. Be like, oh, you can come in and you can get big minutes. But if you look at it, they spent 100 million on Jack Grealish. They have the ability to spend this money, and the issue isn't so much the playing time. They're going there for money as well. Like, do you know what? I'm not going to say what I was going to say, because that'll get us fucking banned. Because definitely what I was going to say is not going to fly. I'll use the PG version of it. Winning a trophy with Man City is like visiting Amsterdam for your first time. That's how it. Whereas winning it with a team like Liverpool, and to be honest with you, if you won it with a team like United, Chelsea, or Arsenal, I would put them into the same realm. It holds more weight. City won the treble and they still can't fill their stadium. We sell out every day and there's people crying out for more tickets, and it's the hardest club to get tickets in that I've ever found in my life. I looked up online and I could get tickets for the away end in a premium stand for 100 quid for the Arsenal FA Cup game. Now, they could be gone up at this point, but 100 quid for a premium box in the Emirates for an FA Cup game in January on the 7th. I mean, who'd say no to that, realistically? Whereas you go and you look at the Liverpool ones, and fair enough, they're like 600-700 quid, but they're that because they're so fucking scarce. So the way that I look at it is while the likes of a City team, as you mentioned, Dean, have the ability to be like, oh, we'll pay you out your arse and under the books and in brown envelopes handed to you at the end of training sessions. You might not get all the game time, but sure, you'll be sitting pretty on 400 grand a week under the table. Whereas I think we're operating much more within the rules of it. It is an interesting one, though, because God knows what's going to happen, realistically.
Could I ask you guys a question on the Bajcetic thing, right? Because I've been thinking about this a lot with Bajcetic, and looking back at last year, right? Did you guys think he performed better in the 8 role or in the 6 role? Because I think
he performed as a 6 in the 8 role, if that makes sense.
But I mean, from the games that he did actually have to play as the out-and-out 6, for me at least, he didn't impress half as much as when he was more playing the 8 role as a 6 role, if you know what I mean. So for me, it's more like long-term. Sorry, I'll let you go.
Sorry. What do you do better in this midfield, though? That's the key.
Yeah. Like, if MacAllister
I agree with
a player sitting in front of him, would he do better? I think he would, because he wouldn't be asked to do as much.
True, it is a big unknown. Like, I think it's more frustrating the fact that we haven't been able to see him play all season, and when we have, he had to play inverted right back, which doesn't help as well. So, I think
the way that I look at it is if you think about it, think about Cade Gordon, who was quite a frail and skinny looking kid, and now, per reports, is a beast. Like, has grown a couple of inches and put on the pounds and muscle. Who's to say that the similar thing won't happen to Bajcetic? And that's probably what's happening to him now. As in, he's just gone and got his Captain America super soldier serum and is going to come back built like a shit brick house. I think that could happen as well, realistically. I think, like, again, for Klopp to be able to praise a player of that age this much, he doesn't do that for an awful lot of players. And any player that he does do that with genuinely comes very, very good. And I just have complete trust in that man. I think he's going to sign an extension. I think he's going to retire as a Liverpool manager, maybe even move upwards into the club, such as a sporting director or somebody along those lines, and work alongside the scouting department. I think that'd be a great move for him when the next manager comes in, Xabi Alonso. That's the way that I look at it. But we'll we'll move on from some transfer talk and actually talk about the game tomorrow, because I have a couple of stats here in relation to how we've done in our last couple of games against Crystal Palace. So, of all of the games that we played against Crystal Palace, we have won 35, drawn 13, lost 14. We have not lost against them since 2017 in April. And since that, we've won 11 and drawn 2. The last 2 games we've drawn were last season. Was a 0-0 and a 1-1 draw. I don't think many of us would count last season, considering I think this team is much, much improved. And hilariously, the average goals for this particular fixture between Liverpool and Crystal Palace is over 3.23. So goals happen. And I was looking back through all of the games. It's always a 2-1 victory, which is hilarious. And then we had obviously our 7-0 win a couple of years ago too. That was brilliant too. But Dean, I'll throw the question to yourself first. Is how confident are you about tomorrow? Do you think this should be not so much an easier game than Sheffield United, because I think everybody was a little bit worried about Sheffield purely because new manager bounce, and they really came out and played with a good bit of fire. You could commend them for that until the first goal went in, and then even then I was worried up until Szoboszlai scored the second goal. I was worried that they'd get a late equaliser and it'd be like Luton all over again. Do you feel a little bit more confident about this Palace game, or would you have similar concerns? Because Palace are without a good few attacking threats.
Was that me? Sorry.
Yes, Dean. Sorry,
mate. I'm going into this game for a change relatively confident, usually quite pessimistic, and go into these away games because our away form's quite patchy. But Palace have got problems, real problems at the moment. They've got a lot of injuries to key players. Missing, is it Mitchell, Decore, which is a big one, and Eze, and I think Alexis is a doubt because he's been playing too much or something like that. They've obviously got more threat than Sheffield United. Look, Sheffield United are woeful. The championship, it screams championship. That team does. They are better, but the best time to play Crystal Palace at 12:30 before all the fans got pissed, basically. They haven't got their drinks down them, so the atmosphere shouldn't be as intense as it normally is, especially at Crystal Palace. But there should be goals in this. We get that first goal, I think floodgates open. Hodgson's under real pressure. He cracked at the last game it was either in the interview or the press conference. He come out, slag the fans off, saying that they've been spoiled over the years. And it's like, in a minute, you're the one doing this. You're the one bringing them down to your level, which is not very high. So I back us to run riot if we can score early anyway, and nullify the threat of, I think it's only Edward, and then if Elise plays. If you nullify them too, I don't think they've really got anything else.
No, nor do I. It's one of them things that, similarly to the Sheffield match, Hassan, that as the minutes tick on, knowing that you should be head and shoulders clear above this team, as Kelleher mentions, they have a terrible home record. They're better away from home. They've lost 4 at home and conceded 10. It's quite the oxymoron that they're just not that good at home when you usually think teams would be good at home. But with how the minutes kind of ticked away against Sheffield and how we were a little bit concerned up until Virgil's goal, would you feel a similar way about this one? Like, you think we need to get out to an early start, pin them back, score a goal, and make them then come to us and allow us to hit them on counter and actually play our game and control the game that way? Get out to an early lead and then control the game from that point. Is that a similar game plan that we should have as we did against Sheffield?
Ideally, that should be our plan. As Dean said, that this is the time to play them because their fans are always very noisy in the evening, but this time they might be a bit. And Hodgson comments must have affected them also. And for me, that the only concern is the early kickoff. It's also not good for us, and our last game was also away. Now this game is also away, but we should go all guns blazing, score the first goal, and settle our nerves because when the team sit back and we are not getting our goal, then we also get a bit nervous. So we should go all guns blazing, get the first goal. Nunez should start. because Nunez, even though he misses, he create chances, and he never stops. So we should always start up with him, and after that we can give him rest.
Yeah, he could rest in the midweek when we play USG and then come back after a full week's rest to play United. That's the way that I look at it. Speaking of Nunez, Willem, I thought he came on and in the 15 minutes that he was on, I thought he played better than Gakpo did the whole game, in my own opinion. I've never seen it Nunez is just an absolute enigma. No more than the Bournemouth goal, where terrible first touch on his left foot, then cuts back inside, takes on the defender, and puts the top ins. Similarly to how this second goal came about, he loses the ball, but then goes and puts in a tackle that a centre back could be proud of. Recovers the ball, pings a beautifully weighted pass over the defense to a wide open Szoboszlai, who calmly just pops it over the keeper and into the net.
One minute. Was it in our group chat or was it on Twitter that he's like a box of chocolate? You never know what you're gonna get.
I think you've probably seen that on Twitter, but yeah, that's genuinely possibly the best. He's just pure chaos, and he's just pure if I was a centre back or if I was any sort of defender, he would terrify me because he's 6'5", fucking 4. He's blistering pace and he's big and strong. And it's something that Larry Bird said about when Michael Jordan was dribbling the ball at him. And the way he described it is when you're standing in front of Michael Jordan and he doesn't even know what he's going to do and you don't even know what he's going to do, it's the most terrifying fucking thing on the planet. And I'm not comparing Darwin Nunez to Michael Jordan by any sense of the means, so don't come at me for that. But it's the fact that I don't think even Darwin Nunez knows what he's going to do. And that's terrifying. And he could ping one into the top corner into Rowe's edge. And that's beautiful, I think. I think it's just beautiful. But Willem, Darwin came on and was more of a goal threat in 15 minutes than Cody Gakpo was in the entire game. Would you start the two of them and rest Diaz for this particular game and have Gakpo on the left wing, or would you just have it Diaz, Nunez, Salah?
I would have it Diaz, Nunez, Salah, because I feel like we need Diaz to kind of regain his form a little bit as well, and we need him to really get into that rhythm again, make him kind of, forget about the past month and a half, 2 months, what's been happening for him as well. So, and like you said, I mean, Gakpo, right, he had the full-on opportunity midweek to at least show us something to be like, all right, he could really be a contention for a starting spot, but he didn't do anything that I think guarantees him a spot to start tomorrow. With the Nunez thing, I remember after he scored it, I just told my mate who I was watching it with, I went, nothing epitomizes Darwin Nunez as much as that goal himself, where he loses the ball going into a dribble when he should have just actually, if he would have just taken a touch wide, he would have probably easily dribbled, sprint past him and then would have pretty much been on goal. Then lose it, does an amazing tackle, and then gives an unreal cross that no one was expecting he even had in his game. Whereas, and that is literally the epitome of him. And to be fair, I think that's why we all love him and we all give him the time and the patience, despite some of his flaws in the game, because it's just, like you said, it's anarchy, it's absolute chaos, it's mad. But yeah, it's brilliant. On the game for tomorrow, feelings-wise, I'm actually an internal struggle because I'm confident, but normally when I'm confident for a game, it doesn't turn out being that good.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in one of them where I'm like, I do think, just looking at the whole situation, obviously with the injuries that Palace have and with the pressure on Roy, again, deservedly, because they have been pants. Yeah, okay. We should, on paper, we should be easily winning this, but on paper, it's always easy, and it's a 12:30 kickoff tomorrow, so I'm not taking anything for granted. So my attitude's going to be the same as for Sheffield. Just win. I don't care how. Just do it. That's it.
So similarly to myself, it's just win. I don't care. I don't care if we win by 7, we win by 1. It's 3 points. You get 3 points regardless of the scoreline. That's all I care about. And realistically, I think a lot of us are like that now at this stage. We just have to match Arsenal because they will eventually slip up. I don't think they have the squad depth to keep going, especially if they go for a bit of a run in the Champions League. I don't see them even going near winning that. But I can see them overplaying some starters and needing some rest for some Premier League games. Maybe not the likes of Saka or maybe not the likes of Odegaard, but some sort of fringe players that would then demand lesser players to then come in and substitute in, meaning chances will be there towards the end of games.
I mean, also with the looking at the kind of the revisionist history part, if you look at our past couple of title races with City, it's actually the first 15 games where you can more afford a little slip up in between it. And it's once we start getting to the beginning of December till March, where, like, beginning of March, that's where most of your points have to be gotten, because it gives you that little leeway again at the end of the season where maybe you can have a draw instead of a win. But that's round about it. So it's really important for us just to keep winning.
Yeah, I agree as well. It's just win. That's it. Don't care how, don't care why, don't question it. 3 points is 3 points, and that's the way that I want us to continue going. I have a couple of comments here that I want to get through. Dexter mentions that he prefers Gakpo all day. For him, I can understand why, and he explains here that he offers more stability to the team and he's more sustainable. I can see where that's coming from, but if you watch the game against Sheffield, realistically, I think you need to deploy him against a particular team. I think Darwin Nunez fits most molds, and Gakpo is like the specialist. If you wanted to really compare them, Darwin Nunez is a sledgehammer, Cody Gakpo is a scalpel. Like, sometimes you need a sledgehammer, sometimes you need a scalpel. That's probably the best way that I would look at it. Gakpo is like a post-up player. He uses his back to the goal. He can receive the ball and play it off. But funnily enough, Darwin Nunez has been doing a lot of that this season as well. I purely think it's just the fact that Darwin Nunez went on a run and Cody Gakpo hasn't been able to regain his form, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we're getting to see Darwin Nunez at his full potential, albeit some misses here and there. I still think that he's surpassed his goal tally of last season already, in all comps, that is. So I think he can only, and we're not even halfway through the season at the moment. So how can you not say that he's not? I think he's 10 times the player he was last season. But I can also see the argument for Gakpo that Dexter makes there. The other question that we'll get to as well before we get to some predictions, score predictions, and a little bit of a Q&A at the end. If anybody has any questions, please do leave them in the chat. We will make sure to get to them hopefully by the end of it. As Jamie's mentions here, you need squad depth to challenge for the league, and that's exactly what we have. I feel we have near enough 2 starting 11s that could compete for, at minimum, a European spot. So by that standard, I think we're fairly well set. I don't think a lot of other teams can say the same thing. Question that Jamie Hughes has here in relation, and it follows on from last night. Do you think FSG will sell LFC eventually to buy an NBA Vegas franchise? They'll need about $4 billion to do it. I don't think they will, purely because that I don't think is even in the pipework in the NBA at the moment for an expansion, because they need to expand 2 teams and not 1 team, and I don't know where the second team is going to go. The only 2 places that I know they could put a team at the moment will be Seattle, to get the Seattle Supersonics back, and then the other team where the Oklahoma City Thunder took over from them, basically. And the only other team then is Vegas, and they're both Western Conference teams. You need an Eastern and a Western Conference team. And I don't know where on the East Coast you could put another team in that's crying out for it. Maybe Nashville, but you already have Memphis there.
The ones that are kind of like in the middle of the country, they kind of get like, so for example, New Orleans gets put into the Western Conference, where geographically, if you look at it,
they're Eastern,
from the middle, they're more towards the East. So like, I think they would just reshuffle it in that way, and then still have 2 Western Conference teams coming in. Because it's the NBA, they want Vegas and Seattle back, because Seattle's a massive market there as well.
Hugely so. Like,
huge.
With the Major League Baseball at the moment, I don't know if anybody follows that, but the Mariners at the moment, the Seattle Mariners, their ownership is similar to the Glazers at the moment, and they're alienating all fans and players, and how mismanagement is occurring with them at the moment. So they could end up nearly even moving town as well. Vegas seems to be the hotspot at the moment for baseball franchises, NFL franchises. It doesn't shock me that an NBA franchise would go there. Dean, if you were in FSG's position, would you sell? And don't be biased and say, yeah, I'd sell to the lowest Saudi bidder just because.
It all depends on what the long-term plan is. If it's purely down, let's see how much money we can get out of it. You sell when we're at our peak. Our peak was probably a couple of years ago. You know, not so much when we won the league because the pandemic hit, but when we won the Champions League, we had a world-class squad capable of winning Premier League titles. I know the infrastructure wasn't quite there in terms of the stadium, but they've had to throw money into that, significant money into that, to see what it generates, which obviously it's hopefully not far has been done. So I think they are sticking around for a good number of years to see how far this club can go, how big it can build off the pitch. But I don't think they sell. And I probably, if I was a businessman, if I was FSG, I wouldn't sell because Liverpool, as we all know, biggest club, one if not the biggest, one of the biggest clubs in the world. So
Yeah.
it makes no business sense to sell now.
I don't think so either. As Kelleher mentions here, if you work in finance, you'd automatically understand. And I don't even think you need to work in finance, Kelleher, to understand the economics of the situation. They quite literally have a money printing machine in Liverpool. So why would they sell unless the valuation tanked for some reason and they needed to get out? They're smart businessmen. I don't see why they would. Paul is after mentioning that he hears the 49ers are for sale, only $6 billion. I'll just get out the checkbook and that'll be me sorted. I'll get a loan. I'll find some money down the back of the couch. It'll be fine. You'll see me as the new Jed York over in San Francisco, sitting pretty. God, if I won the lotto, that'd be the first thing I'd invest in as a sports team.
Just write $6 billion on a paper and then like say, this is how we do it in Ireland. This is our way of putting checks through.
I'll pay you next week. Be sound. Be great.
They're American. They don't know.
Yeah. I'll get. It's. I've been in a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Go on, off with you. Oh God, oh man! Imagine owning a sports team. Jesus Christ! I'd love to be somebody like Mark Cuban who owns the Dallas Mavericks. He sold the majority.
He should sold the majority of it.
Yeah, sold it. I mean, he still has basketball operations control. I don't think he'd ever give that up. But I think it's just more he's looking to cash in on his investment. Because I think he bought them for $235 million, and they're now worth about $3 or $4 billion, which is absolutely bonkers. He'll buy himself back in and buy himself more shares. I think he's just looking for further investment from people at that point. But we will now start getting on to some predictions and some predicted 11s. So we had our predicted 11 that was out earlier on. That was done by Lou. So please do go and check that out if you haven't done so already. You can do it after the stream. Don't leave yet. But Hassan, I'll come to yourself first. Give me your predicted 11 and then give me your predicted score line. And everybody in the chat as well, make sure to give us your predicted 11 and your predicted score too.
Yeah, for goalkeeper Kelleher, left back Tsimikas, then Virgil and Konate, and Alexander-Arnold. And in midfield, I will go for Gravenberch, Endo, and Szoboszlai. And front three, Gapco, Nunez, and Salah.
And your score prediction?
3-0.
3-0? Fantastic. Clean sheet. I have Kelleher and goal in my FPL. I love that. Dean, starting 11 and your predicted score.
Alisson in goal, Tsimikas, Virgil, Kwanzaa, Trent, Endo. Now the midfield's quite intriguing. I'm going with Elliott and Gravenberch. But if not, it would be Jones and Szoboszlai. That would be the combination. And then Salah, Nunez, Diaz up front. Simple as.
Score prediction?
And then 4-0.
4-0. Wow, okay. Willem, continue the train of positivity that is there at the moment. I know you always do, and that's why I love you. Give me your starting 11 and give me your predicted score.
So for me, it'd be Ali, Tsimikas, Konate, Van Dijk, Trent, Endo. I still don't think he's going to put Jones in. I think Jones will get the midweek. So I think it's going to be Endo, Gravenberch, and I do think he'll play Szoboszlai, but I think more because I don't think any of the players that I'm calling up now are going to be playing on Thursday, apart from the ones that we literally can't replace because we don't have a backup because they're injured right now. And then Diaz, Nunez, Salah up front. And I'm still, even though we've done great against them in their last 11 games, I've still always got it stuck in my mind that Crystal Palace is our bogey team. So I'm going to say 1-2 to us. So we're going to win 2-1, I'd say.
Perfect. I don't like you because you ruined my clean sheet with Kelleher, but that's okay. If he's not playing,
Kelleher's not in my team if we go my way. So I'd be screwing you anyway.
Yeah. No, that'll be grand because then I'll have Leno come in and he might get a clean sheet against West Ham. Hopefully, he says. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Everybody's here. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions in the chat that I haven't gotten to yet. If anybody has last minute questions while I'm browsing this, fire them into the chat and we'll try and get to them. I see some 7-0s coming in here. It would be beautiful if we got that result again. I think it'll be Kelleher, Tsimikas, Virgil van Dijk, Konate. Kwanzaa could be very easily squeaking in there as well, but I think he might play midweek. Trent on the right, and then a midfield three of Endo at the CDM, Gravenberch in the left-sided centre midfielder, and Szoboszlai on the right. To be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't be the angriest if Szoboszlai got a bit of a rest, and it was Elliott there with Gravenberch to his left. So and then obviously front three, I'd have Diaz, Nunez, Salah as our front three. I wouldn't be mad if Szoboszlai got a rest because Jesus, that man deserves it. I don't think there's been a 90 minutes he hasn't played yet. I think he was subbed off at some point recently that he didn't play a full 90, and it's nuts. I think
Fulham.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I wouldn't be mad with him getting a rest in my own opinion, but that's my 11. And my score prediction is going to be 2-0. I think it'll be a very similar game to Sheffield, that we'll just go bang 2 goals, hopefully not leave it as late as the second one this time, but just get 2 goals, sit comfortable, switch some people out, and just hold possession and control the game moving forward that day. That's the way I hope it is. And we have agreed on this. He plays better as a substitute than a starter, but I like, who else would you put in that right centre midfielder role? You could put in a Jones and a Gravenberch in there, I suppose, and let Szoboszlai rest that way. But I think Elliott might be nice there, even if it's just for the first half, or even Szoboszlai in there for a half and then pull him and put Elliott in. If he's better at coming off the bench, we can do it that way as well. But that is our stream finito. I'd like to thank everybody so much for joining us. Make sure that you have already liked and subscribed. If you haven't done so, help us hit that 10K mark and make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos. We will be back tomorrow after our game, hopefully in a happy stream. I'll be hosting that one. It'll be after the 12:30 kickoff. So probably about the 2:30 mark is where we'll be aiming to get that one kicked off, and then we'll have our normal 7:30 stream that night as well. So make sure you stick around for those two and make sure not to miss them. But from myself, Dean, Hassan, and Willem, the ray of positivity that he always is, thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope everybody has a lovely evening wherever you are in the world, and we will see everybody tomorrow after the game, hopefully for a happy result. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.